Hey everybody, welcome back. We are today just going to have a brief discussion, hopefully for your input. We are working on a whole list of different topics that we want to explore and things that we personally find interesting and things that at least we believe that the majority of you that follow us faithfully, primarily on BitChute and Rumble, and of course, now that it appears that we're getting a little shadow banned on Communist Tube, that I just think these things are fascinating. And if there's any particular topic you would like us to discuss or anything outside of that, we love to delve into topics that are not generally discussed. People sometimes will think of them or it enters their head and they instantly think of something else. But some of these are really important for human growth, your spiritual growth, and just all around important as being a human. Some of them, I got a whole list here, Mr. Schmidt. What are some of yours right out of the gate?
One of the ones that I would really like to talk about in future is the karmic cycle of the individual. What are the individual little choices and things that you make and do throughout your day and life, how it adds up into the spiritual realm, whether you know it or not. And if you don't know something and it's brought to your attention, how does that affect your karmic cycle?
Yeah, the old adage, what goes around comes around. I mean, that is a karmic cycle. And there's a lot of definitions and different interpretations of what karma means. But, well, sorry, I got a bunch I was writing with my fountain pen. I have ink. That could be another topic, how to write with a fountain pen.
Yeah, I got ink on me too there.
So, that's an interesting topic. And we just did one on the karma of nations. So the karma of the individual would be probably a really fun one to discuss. It's something that I know we will. I have a short list of some here. One is that I didn't mention to you earlier. It's the Magna Carta and the importance on the freedoms of the soul. The Magna Carta is about 800 years old, and it is that whole belief system of, and it's been well, now it's people in the 1500s, 16, 1800s look back on the earlier hundreds and turned it into a myth. It was something that it wasn't. They believe it gave a lot of freedoms, but that really wasn't the case. But it gave the idea. It was the seed. It was the birth of the grand experiment that led into the United States. And it's pretty fascinating how that particular way of thinking was inspired from inside of the individuals. They were tired of being serfs. They wanted to explore their own religious ideas, their own spirituality. They wanted to have freedom of trade and commerce, just to travel. It's pretty important, I think. That would be an interesting.
Just the whole setup of how we could go down that discussion, because I think a lot of times that there's so many of these discussions that we can hit in more than one video, because I think we can hit them from different angles. Because, when we just see just one line of thinking at the point we're at, because I think it would be fun to discuss that, choices are inside you. That's a topic that actually my 3-year-old son at the time said to me, and I was like, man, that is a brilliant thought. I think most people would let that pass. And at the time, I was like, I'm not ready to talk about that. And the longer that we do this and the more things that we talk about and the more discussions we have, and as I'm editing, looking back on different videos, I'm like, man, I could have touched on this. And then that goes to a whole nother thing. And I'm like, how many times can you touch on this same video, but take it a whole nother angle? It can be a huge deal. Like we talk about that on several of our topics just between us.
I think that it's something whenever I watch our videos is that you go, wow, there's so many other avenues that one thing can lead down, or hitting it from a different perspective. And that's something that we're going to tackle too, because I know that there's some people, we've had some conversations that people would think and ask, why did you not touch on it in this particular way or see it that way? And it's like, well, we're kind of limited by time. We just make another whole video of those things. And I got another topic that I think is interesting. How meditation is a complete combination or is completely equal to which kind of doesn't make sense, but makes perfect sense if you're really avid meditator, is that meditation is equal to thinking and not thinking at the exact same time. It's a strange thing, and I got a lot to say about that. I don't know. It's like I got a little note here that says, when there is no thinking, the subconscious downloads universal knowledge, which I think is absolutely true for me. I don't know how that is for you avid meditators, but it certainly feels that way.
You know, I think meditation is one of those interesting things that is unique to the individual. Like pre this discussion, you were telling me that you found a playlist or some kind of music that replicated the music that is in your brain when you meditate, when there's nothing else going on, when you're deep into meditation. And I also have some sort of music that plays on in that certain circumstance. So I wonder if your music that you hear is much like the music that I hear. But then again, there's also all these different meditation musics that come about. So is this meditation music that you hear from someone the music that they hear in their head? You know, if you go and you watch some of these really cool documentaries on like Led Zeppelin, you know, some of their songs, they came up with them during the course of, well, some of theirs were in drugs, but
Sure.
let's just say that's a form of meditation for them.
Well, it was.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they came up with songs like that. So, you know, it could be just an interest. I think there's a lot of ways we can take that too.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll have fun with that one. And what is it? Here's another one. What does it mean when someone gives you good vibes? You know, we've said that a lot, and I hear it. I think everybody I've ever known has said, "Oh, you know, he radiates positivity," or "Yeah, that's a positive person. I really like him. He gave me good vibes." The good vibes is something that you hear more often than not when you see somebody that you really like, and you are talking to somebody else about that person, and you say, "Oh yeah, he gave me real good vibes." Yeah, what does that mean? Where do good vibes come from? How do they generate? How do we receive them? You know, is it like what we were talking about just briefly right before, you know, coming over here, is that, you know, our bodies are receptors. You know, we see, we can only see things that help us navigate so we don't hurt our physical body, but there's so many things we don't see. You know, like what I was saying a second ago, we don't see the sound going between us. It's just a disturbance in the air. Our receivers pick it up and translate that into sound for us. Is that the same thing with the good vibes? Do we have a third eye? Do we have a heart that actually feels their good intentions, their good will and positivity?
See, I think I would take the good vibes conversation kind of down a different track. That it's more of when you communicate with someone, it's an emotional transaction, just like you would transact with money to buy something. You're having an emotional transaction there. So I don't know, you know, it's something interesting we can talk about. That's one of those things I think that we would have to actually, or I would want to write and take down some notes. Because, you know, so many of our topics, we just close our books and just what's on our head and just have fun with it.
Right, which I think is a fantastic thing. And I have another one that kind of goes with that, and maybe we could integrate it, but, you know, just going with the flow. That could be a lot of things. You always hear somebody, you know, don't be like a salmon and swim upstream.
Yeah, see, no, I don't know about that. My wife and I are doing Sober October right now, and she was at her sister's house last night, and they were all having a couple drinks, and they were trying to get her to have a drink. And I said, you know, normally when the herd tells you to do something, they're absolutely wrong, and you should do the opposite at all cost. So, you know,
It is true. Going with the flow can create a lot of problems. Just like going with the flow, most cases in investing or a belief system, just like we have proven to ourselves that we didn't know was so prominently in our face until we actually explored the Bible. You know, people just go with the flow of what they were taught from kids till adulthood with no examination, just little cherry pickings. And that's an interesting topic. I think we could have a lot of fun with that.
yeah, because you can see that from really the positive and the negative side.
Here's one that I think hits home with you especially, and I think is fantastic, is the spirituality of homeschooling.
That is something that's really interesting because I would find it hard for someone to think of themselves as a spiritual person and not homeschool. Like I could get it maybe if you have certain, I don't know, that's a tough one. Like I could see some circumstances where that might be the case. Like you're a single mom and you don't have really any other option other than homeschool. Like maybe you were in a committed
You
relationship.
mean public school?
Yeah, public school. You know, maybe you were in a committed relationship and your husband got hit by a truck or something. And, you know, you're a spiritual person and you try to teach them spirituality at home. But you...
I don't know. You know, nowadays there are these homeschooling groups that are starting.
There are, but what if you got to go out and get a job? You know, she's a single mom and has to have a job.
Well, no, I understand that. I'm saying there's actual groups that you can drop your kid off. Like,
Oh,
they
you
are
mean,
going to school.
so it's a homeschooling
It's a homeschool.
community.
They have like 3 or 4 kids or 10 kids or whatever in a small setting. They're starting to do that in a lot of.
Actually, you know, that's kind of an interesting idea because, you know, it goes back to that old adage, it takes a community to raise a child. So that's just bringing it back to the old ways instead of the government raising your kid.
Well, yeah, and I mean now it's an indoctrination camp of you're training them to be in prison. It's the
I don't know about now. It's been that way for
Well,
a
it's been that
while.
way for a long time, but it's steadily gotten worse every single year. You know, you're programmed, you hear the authoritarian bell, you got to jump up. You sit in a chair, which kids are not meant to sit in to learn. It's kind of ridiculous.
See, now I think we're going down the topic when we should just
Shouldn't
be talking about the topic.
I think so.
There we
You're
go.
right. Thanks for stopping me, sir. Thank you. And I thought, I thought this would be really fun for us and y'all too, is to list out a series of documentaries that we've watched over the many years, and talk about why we thought they were good. And
We're going to have to give you the short list of the ones that we thought were good because we've seen a lot of them.
countless documentaries, but the ones that, because a lot of people don't have time to read, and it's a lot better if they can, when they get home from a long day of work or something, they want to sit down and relax. Well, why not watch something that's going to educate you and put you more in tune with what is actually happening in the world or what has happened, that can give you a foundation of better to look forward to what is going to happen.
So you mean Seinfeld's not a documentary?
Duh, I thought it was. That was the first one on my list. So let's see, what else do we have here? I wanted to talk about how the West has infiltrated the architecture and clothing and just basically dismantling the individual cultures of nations, such as like when we were in Qatar, traveling the Middle East, that you look at this big, beautiful, clean, awesome city, like in Doha, and all of it is Western. Everything is Westernized. They're copycatting the U.S., Chicago, New York, these big cities that were, you know, iconic for the rest of the world, and now they're emulating them instead of embracing their own architecture that has been around for thousands of years. And
I think sometimes you have to think about function over form, though. Like,
well, see, now you're going down to the topic, because see, I think you could have a equal or grander function with their forms of architecture.
let's just say the islands that they've built, that was unique to them.
It was, but they're building
But then they're
regular
building
Western houses.
stuff on it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
it's
saying.
just
Maybe
weird.
they're mixing form and function. You know, maybe that it just works out better to have
It
a
doesn't.
high rise.
No, it's just the same way. How great are Chinese clothes? I love wearing Chinese clothes because it's easy.
Actually, everybody wears Chinese clothes, to be honest.
Well,
I mean,
That's
everybody out there at home is wearing Chinese clothes. If you don't believe me, look at your tag.
Well
Western
done.
clothes or Chinese clothes?
Well done, sir. Well done. The point of that is that the design,
the design
of Western clothes has permeated all the rest of the world, whether from mission trips or business people wanting to emulate Western business people. Even the president of China comes out in a business suit instead of their traditional Chinese wear. Same way in India, when we've traveled India, vast majority of them are wearing Western type clothes and foregoing their more comfortable traditional dress and losing big pieces of their culture along the way to melt into what is obvious to anyone who has eyes to see and ears to hear about how the Western civilization is right in front of our eyes crumbling. So why do you have these?
I think part of it is because we're dumping our unused goods on poor people, and they're picking it up.
There is a lot to that too. So that's something we'll talk about in that particular subject.
Which is, like, we're talking about subjects. We could go back on our charity that we did and just see that from a whole nother angle of just dumping westernized materials that really disintegrate the local culture.
For sure. I think it's harmful. And I think it is a detriment to all of the rest of the world for other ancient cultures to start emulating such a newer Western philosophy and way of life that is not working. It is just not working. You just don't have to see it. So anyway, the other topic, which is I think pretty good, is how do you make your thoughts work for you instead of against you?
Yeah.
Tough one.
I would love to help you on that one. I can't help. I don't know. My thoughts at the moment right now, they seem to be working against me than for me. I don't know.
I think that is a great one to go down. I also think that we should touch on artificial intelligence and all of the ramifications of that. And if we create intelligence that is far superior to our own, does that mean that does artificial intelligence have a consciousness? Where does it come from? Do they have? Can we create an artificial pineal gland and the feelings of the heart and chakras and something artificial?
I don't know. Is artificial insemination artificial intelligence?
Maybe. I don't know. I just think that's a fantastic discussion. And I got another one here. It says, talking about how there is, for the most part, there are no perfect days. There's no perfect wedding, no perfect vacation, holiday, all these things. Even though if we have great days like you mentioned to me earlier, is that
I've had some pretty perfect days. I don't know if they could have been changed much to be much better.
That goes to perception, your perception of the day, because everything's going so well and so right. All the little imperfections you don't even notice because your perception is already set that this is such a great day. And to somebody else that's experiencing the same thing, all those little things may have upset them, put them over the top, got them aggravated, stressed, whatever.
People are individual in certain ways, and some things that I enjoy, I'm quite sure other people would not enjoy.
Oh, for sure. Well, there's just a whole bunch of these topics, and I just have them. I mean, I just have gone on ad nauseum, but that's just a little touch of them. And I think it would be fun to get any input from you guys on what do y'all think the next one should be. And
or any that you might have that you want us to talk about. I think it would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be great. We love input from you guys, and it's important to have conversations about all these things. That's what part of being human is, and communicating about what is happening in ourselves and outside of ourselves, in our communities and state and the world, universe, and how it affects us and how we grow individually and how we grow spiritually and how we have better connections with our fellow humans.
Speaking of connections with our fellow humans, I think this is an interesting point for us to ask our audience to have these interesting conversations with the people that they're closest to spark their own dialogue between friends and family members and just see where it goes. Might go nowhere, or you could have a whole nother fun Friday night that was not what it was planned to be.
Sure, absolutely. And just everybody be aware that we are on other outlets besides the YouTube, and it is BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey. We are going to go to a couple other ones. D2, I'll let you know then, and we'll put it in the description below. But for now, our views are doing very well on the alternative ones. I think we've got some shadow banning going on with the Communist Tube. So it is what it is. So, sir, you got anything else?
I think that's good. Like I said, if you want anything you want us to discuss, let us know. And then have a good day.